여러분이 좀 배울 수 있었으면 합니다. 이분은 여러 가지 우리나라에서는 그 트룸프 코리아 쪽 일을 하시면서 그 다음에는 현재는 한독 상공회의소의 회장으로 계십니다. 2011년부터. 또 하나는 이분이 서울 명예 시민이래요. 그래서 So you are now an honorary citizen of Seoul. You are part of Korea now. So you can start. 자, 박수로 여러분.
Ja, 감사합니다. This one. Yes, okay. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. The benefit of an honorary citizen in Seoul is very, very impressive. I can take the subway free of charge from the age of 60. But anyhow, yeah, thanks again. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to speak here today and give some introduction. The topic we try to characterize is a German machine tool manufacturer considered to be a hidden champion. And hidden champions are these days in the Korean society on the political stage get a very high attention. So I appreciate that I can also cover a little bit of advertising for TRUMPF. We are considered as a so-called hidden champion, or at least many are looking at TRUMPF to understand what hidden champions are. And to understand this topic and the strong points of a hidden champion, I'd like first to start with the history of TRUMPF, which is almost 100 years, not yet, but more than 90 years now. Some people also consider TRUMPF as a Dogil Chaebol. So you may understand a little bit our targets, but also the power of the company. Even we are much smaller, but worldwide active. So there are several values where I'd like to start first. Values of the company. And they are not just given by some wording. The management and the owner, the shareholders, whatever, the owner, are committed to these values very, very strong. They want to stay, and I'd like to point it out. The independence of the company is a very high value. Independent means specifically if it's compared to public noted companies where you have all the reportings and impact from investors and so on. So the management follows and tries to be so much profitable that they are not in the hands of somebody else, which is a challenging value. Another one is the commitment to the long-term future, which is a challenging aspect if you compare it to some very popular slogans like shareholder values, to pay off return of investments in the short term. TRUMPF's commitment is based on long-term understanding and success of the company. Number 3, the leadership in its technology. It's a high value, and we are focused on core competencies and trying to drive the company in the direction that these competencies are not something we just follow, but we want to be and we try to be the leader in these core fields, which can be different, which can be changing, but to be a leader means all of the energy has to be focused to keep this leadership, to maintain it. And in the same line of values, we also can see the management considers a good corporate culture. Good means good for the company as well as for the employees. There is also discussions and disputes because, yeah, sure, it's not automatically true that what employees want is the same what the company wants. But it's understood that the management has to care that employees feel comfortable and do the best for the success of the company. So both things has to be met together. Yeah, back to the history. There was 1923, Mr. Trumpf, Christian Trumpf, who started the business. And in a very early stage, his core competence was flexible shafts, which were used in very simple factories. Maybe most of us will think, if we see these pictures on some manufacturing facilities in the early stage of industrialization in Great Britain. And these flexible shafts were the initial core competencies. It were used for slaughterhouses to clean the skin of pigs and cows, and out of that it was developed into industrial use of scissors for cutting sheet metal. And with that, in the 1940s, 50s then, it was a very challenging way from cutting sheet metal with industrialized scissors. Then, at that point, Trumpf turned into a real machine tool manufacturer. When these scissors were, this cutting process was brought on the stationary machine, so the sheet metal was not anymore put on a table and cut around with a scissor. Then it was brought in a machine, and the operator could move the sheet metal, and the machine was doing on a stationary location the cutting process. And from here we can see then the industrial developments. 1966, Professor Leibinger joined the company, and he then, as a young engineer, just graduated from the university, then brought the idea why the sheet metal should be moved in the machine always one by one. His diploma was a process of copying. So there was one masterpiece which was fixed in the machine, while the machine automatically copied a second part which was moved manually through the machine, but the contour was given by the master. So this was his diploma works. A very manual process actually, but somehow semi-automated, as the copy process was done automatically. And then he had a chance in the early 60s to get experience in the United States, where he then learned the computerized control of machines. Then he brought also as a very important innovation numerical controls, which are now called CNC controls. At that time it was NC controllers, to be integrated in machines for sheet metal cutting. So this was the next huge innovation, and the founder of the company at that time said the machines from here, which had a value of about 3 or 5 million won or 10 million won, suddenly jumped up to 10, 20 times of that price of about 100 million then. This was a revolution for the company, but driven by a very innovative step to introduce numerical controls here. And this kind of innovations, he, who is now 83 years old, he had in his life, in his business life, he had several kind of this important innovative steps which he brought in the company. For example, the next one was, instead of a mechanical punching tool, to use a hydraulic driven tool. And the next one was then, it was in 1985 already, when he decided that TRUMPF should develop their own laser source for cutting sheet metal. This was then another breakthrough in this kind of industry, when TRUMPF started together with the University of Stuttgart to introduce RF technology to create laser beams. And then 5 years later, 1990, the laser were implemented in the cutting machines, and now we are 25 years from there, where TRUMPF is considered on laser cutting machines as well as on laser sources as world-leading manufacturer for industrial applications. Now the management is supervised by his oldest daughter, and you can see a small picture, but it's a wide range of machines for laser cutting. Here we can see 10, 12 machines, a wide spectrum for all kind of industrial laser cutting machines. The factory, it's nearby Stuttgart. Here's the headquarters, where we have about 2,500 employees. And yeah, again, our chairwoman since almost 10 years. And you can see in 2004, we already manufactured 10,000 CO2 lasers. So it took a time of less than about 10 years from 1995 to 2004 for this number. And these days we produce every year 3,000 to 4,000 industrial lasers for cutting, welding, and diverse applications. Here the actual management, private owned. And back to the topic, what is a hidden champion? There is not much to hide. Hidden champions are just not so famous. Here 6 of the managers. Here the chairwoman with her husband, he is in charge of production. Then her younger brother, who is in charge of the laser technology, and 3 more colleagues in the board for different functions in finance, HR, and organization. We are considered as a high-tech company, some of the values you saw before, and we focus in production, manufacturing technologies with relation to lasers. And we are located in 40 countries around the globe, very international these days, with almost 60 subsidiaries. Here are the basic technologies. Machine tools, which cover these days about 70% of our business. Then the laser technology, which is very much diversified. Electronics and medical. I give some examples what we are doing in these areas later on. The growth is very impressive, and we memorize these big steps of innovation with the first numerical controlled machines around here, then hydraulic punching head, introduction of the industrial usable RF lasers here brought then the real breakthrough into a value of nowadays 2.34 billion. The fiscal year in TRUMPF is closed end of June. That's why we have at the moment the numbers from 2013, but in 6 weeks later we will have then updated ones. Almost 10,000 people for mid-sized companies, now somehow big, but people still think about TRUMPF due to the relative short history of 20, 30 years where the strong growth happened. And one number which is very important is here shown. The expenditure for R&D is very important and considered almost in a always in a range of around 7 to 8, 9% from the annual revenues. It's quite a high number, but really necessary to keep the pace and to follow all innovations and challenges from the competition and from the market. Machine tools, we have here with almost 70% what I mentioned, but in the machine tools there are again 70% related to laser machines. So the laser division is providing the laser source into the machine tool business. Medical is more separate with 6.4%. We are now globally present with a very similar balance if you consider Asia, Germany and Western Europe without Germany, and on the other side America, major player here, US. Middle East is considered separately with about 10%. Engineering, in our case, it's the key focus to keep competition and market in certain relation and to maintain leading positions. Laser cutting, this is something at first you can consider there are many competitors, many companies who provide technologies. If we're going back 10 or 15 years and compare competitors who were available at that time and who are available now, the markets worldwide is changing so dramatically. 15 years ago and now there are 50% of the suppliers from that time and now are different. The meaning is new companies have appeared and established ones have disappeared. So the market is in a very, very fast pace of changes. And this supports again the point to maintain leading positions in technology. A few examples of our program for the machines. There's a combination which is doing punching and laser cutting, then laser processing, laser cutting in 2D flat materials, then pipe cutting, profile and pipe cutting, and also bending cells. Most of the parts which were cut were later on proceeded by some bending operation. Combination, there are machines which can do both laser cutting, punching and some limited bending operations. Pipe cutting. Then we have to consider the activities with laser sources. Lasers are nowadays CO2 lasers, where you can do cutting operations between 0.5 and 30 millimeter thickness, including welding with many other applications. I heard there are several specialists here for this kind of processes. Nowadays we have solid state lasers which are providing very different technology. The characteristic of the laser is different, and we have until the year 2010 all our cutting machines were equipped with CO2 lasers, and within a short period of time of 2-3 years this has changed so dramatically that 50% of our cutting machines are now using and provided with solid state lasers. So the pace is more fast than for any automotive industry and automobile production, where we have within a few years to put factories from top to down and the other way, because to produce a CO2 laser is something totally different from a solid state laser. But if the market asks for this technology, there is no way then to follow and to provide the right equipment. Marking are solid state lasers basically. Then we have also 3D applications which are more available for the automotive industry when it comes to panel cutting and trimming of three-dimensional parts. As you can see here, a welding of a door for a car by remote welding procedures provided by a robot which has then the fiber in his hand actually to do some welding operation in the doors, as you can see here. Pipe welding, if it comes to production of tube and pipes for any kind of industrial joining technology, is standardized by lasers these days. And then in electronics, we can find a very different field where TRUMPF finds its activities here. The RF generator, which provides the electrical energy to create the laser beam, here, these components are also used to provide and support the processes in flat panel and semicon industry for any kind of CVD processes and others, Azure and etching processes and something like that. So this brings us then in a totally different field from comparing to machine tool production. Here in semicon, where specifically in Korea our leading suppliers, Hynix, Samsung and others, we provide then this kind of RF DC generators to support the production of these chips. Medical is a younger business for us, which anyhow stands for about 6.5% of our revenues. Here we provide the surgery tables, the ceiling, the lights, and the pending ceilings. We can, from the ceiling pendants and mobile pendants, which is related to production of our machine technology. Now the question is how to organize this kind of development. I would not say success, but if you're looking into the future, what has to be done to make the success true? And then the picture looks very different. Looking back is easy. We can see what happened. But try to find what may happen and what has to be done and to find the right decisions is a very different story. And I think fortune tellers are not the best helpers on that point. That's why we are all on universities and try to study and to find values and parameters which can be important, which are important milestones then for future success. And the challenge is to find tools, values, parameters, and points where the right decisions have to be made. I would go for a little bit further down to see the complete picture. Maybe one may think at first, a little bit confusing, but if you consider 4 segments, here machines, or let's say our products, market-related activities, which is about organization, marketing, customer relation. On the other side, manpower, all related to satisfy the need and demands of the workers, of the employees, and then methods and structures. All these 4 segments were considered very active and very systematically for future activities. Products is clear. All company is automatically doing that, and to study about the future products. This is a basic. But at least if you consider German companies and small companies in Germany, if you consider the other the other segments, the attention is already much smaller. Products is always the first. But then, if it comes to markets, okay, if some people make it simple and say, okay, if you have the right products, customers will come. But that's needless to say, that's not automatically true. Also from marketing, there are a lot of activities necessary to give the right attention in time to the customers. And here you have a summary of projects and ideas which were proceeded in TRUMPF. If it comes to manpower, it's even more low, the attention. Many may think you have the right products, the right customers, the profit is coming, and the people should be happy while they ask something. But also here, some attention is necessary to make people satisfied with their environment and with their responsibilities. And if you think about organization and structures in the company, it's even more complicated. But on that point, TRUMPF also did a lot and proceeded with certain internal programs to collect and to provide the right way to work and to organize its work with certain programs in the company. Let me summarize it a little bit more. I would go directly to this picture. It started in production, and you all have heard about several methods which were actually or became very famous starting in Japan, but nowadays also applied and developed in all around the world in all industrial environments. For TRUMPF it was new that we started to implement our production system, which we call Synchro, but very much related to the Japanese systems of Kaizen and improvement of efficiency and reduction of waste. We called it Synchro, what we implemented. The challenge is to look into processes, procedures, see how they appear, and then to bring them in a much more transparent, organized structure. And TRUMPF did something what was so far only available or used in the practice in the automotive industry or in industrial segments where you have high volumes in production. We started to produce our machine tools in a way that we put even this 5-10 ton single units on a flow line, like an assembly line. And this brought us a huge success. This was the first step, and you could see then several parameters which are characterized by the floor space or by assembly times or other lead times, and at the end of the day the production volume per year on the same floor space. So all these improvements were just realized by changing some ways of organization in the production, not by new machines and by further factories and something, just provided by challenging and rethinking of the organization. Here some impression of the several factories in our headquarter, close to the headquarter here, then in Austria and Switzerland, where we have also several factories, including US and France. The program Synchro, which is a synonym in TRUMPF for this production for the methods of organizations, started in production, has several steps of progress. We also could hand out the ideas later to see more the details. But the important message is that these programs are applied very systematically, and that all employees and people who are involved get part of the program. The program of improvement does not work if it's just implemented top-down. The management is somehow the biggest challenge to take it also in their own attitudes and way of working to implement this kind of programs for themselves, became open to listen to everybody in the company for any kind of change, and not keep a distance and reject new ideas and these things. This is, I know, for not only for Korea, this is for any society a big challenge, that people, especially managers, who are very comfortable to decide something, also became open to listen, and as well as the other employees became ready to talk, because most people are very comfortable if nothing changes. This makes it always comfortable. But these programs, in our wording of synchros, they will be dead-ended if people are not open for any kind of change. And the key to the success is to get everybody on board for any new organization and structure and methods. As mentioned, it's the management itself and a continuous procedure of problem solving. There are very simple examples, which is maybe all over the world similar. If a door here in this room, maybe this door makes a noise, we are leaving, the door makes a noise. How many people, if one by one, will leave the room, open the door, everybody will hear the noise, and how many people do you think will pay attention to that? How many people will be thinking to change something? How many people will be really doing something and find some can of oil and change the situation? From 100 at the end of the day, it will be less than 5 who really do some activity to change the problem and solve it. Most people are comfortable, maybe, I'm not talking to you, I'm included, yeah, comfortable if, things are running and going and, But this challenge, this attention to open the eyes and ears for any kind of weakness, of potential improvement, this is necessary, and this is provided also, or is stated here in consideration of the customer's needs. Customer is not only the customer who buys the machine, customer is also the colleague who need an information internally. And this attention is necessary and a basic to get a momentum in this progress and to succeed. One point to TRUMPF Korea. We are just 2 pictures, 3 pictures. We have our office here in the Digital Media City in Sangam. We moved there 2007, beginning 2007, and we have here main activities in sales, service, and technology-related activities like consulting, application, some areas of R&D, where we provide services for our customers to meet their requirements. In some way, it's to help them to operate the lasers and the machines, but it's also necessary to understand the customer's needs. If you consider automotive industry, Germans are very proud because Benz, BMW, Porsche, and all those manufacturers, if they are our customers, a German machine tool and laser company can provide the technology for the world market very easy. But if it comes to semicon, flat panel industry and others, telecommunications, our engineers in Germany, they don't understand what the market needs if they are not close to the customers here in Samsung or Hynix. And that's why the challenge for us is to be close to the customers with our competencies, to talk to them, to listen and to learn what they need. And this is, if you compare automotive, semicon, flat panel, very easy to understand. And that's why we have here a strongly growing R&D center with technical capabilities and consulting services. Yeah, here are some of the machines there in this center. And at that point, I'd like to say thank you for your attention. Still hope some of you have some questions. We have still some time. I think we have about 10 minutes more, yeah? So please feel free to ask anything what you'd like to. I will try to answer.
Thank you. Before opening the questions, we have some time to deliver the praise of appreciation by Department Vice Head Dr. Beck.
Thank you.
Yes, it's my honor to give this plaque of appreciation. In deep appreciation of your distinguished lecture entitled The German Hidden Champion TRUMPF Group as manufacturer for machine tools and industrial lasers, for the students in the School of Mechanical, Aerospace and Systems Engineering at KAIST. And this plaque is presented to President Friedrich Stockinger, TRUMPF Korea. Thank you very much.